Welcome to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher, where we take you behind the scenes with peak performers to learn what makes them tick and discover how you can apply their lessons to your life. I'm your host, Molly Fletcher. Today's guest, Andrew Hawkins, better known as Hawk, is a former NFL player, sports executive, and Emmy Award-nominated host. At only 5'7", Hawk's NFL career was improbable at best. But he's made a career on and off the field from people underestimating him. To give you a glimpse of his incredible work ethic, Hawk's long journey to the NFL included working as a caddy, NFL scout, reality show contestant, and playing in the Canadian Football League. He played 7 seasons in the NFL for the Cincinnati Bengals and Cleveland Browns. And get this, all while earning his master's degree from Columbia University with a 4.0 GPA. After retiring from the NFL, Hawk began his media career at ESPN and became one of the founding anchors of SportsCenter on Snapchat. He also served as the director of business development for Spring Hill Entertainment, LeBron James and Maverick Carter's media company. Hawkins is the co-creator and host of The Tomahawk Show along with Joe Thomas, and recently co-founded sports technology company Status Pro. What in the world doesn't Hawk do? All right, let's go. This is my conversation with Andrew Hawkins. Andrew Hawkins, man, I'm telling you, you're a straight-up grinder. We're going to have fun. So I'm excited to dig in today, but I kind of want to start with your football journey, right? I mean, you are like classic underdog in a ton of ways, right? Undersized, overlooked, undrafted, and so for those who aren't familiar with your story, which is unbelievable, can you walk us through that football journey?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. So I'm gonna try to give you a succinct version. I mean, I walked on to play Division I football, earned a scholarship. Not the biggest guy. I'm 5'7". Didn't have a ton of stats while I was in college, but I always knew I had a ton of ability, and I never felt like I quite got my opportunity to shine like everybody else did. And so when I got done playing in college, like everybody, I wanted to go play in the NFL. Unlike the other players that I played with in the NFL, I didn't get any interest. I did everything possible to try to make that happen. Even like I couldn't get an agent. So I had to trick an agent into representing me by creating some fake email account and raving about myself so that he would be interested in representing me. And so things like that. I mean, on my pro day, I faked my height. I faked my weight to try to get myself. I'm like, because once I get in the door, I know I can compete with anybody. But there's this like always... There's gatekeeping, and there's certain things, certain boxes you have to check to get that opportunity that I was trying my damnedest to do. And I tried out for the NFL. I tried out for arena football. I tried out for the Canadian Football League, you name it, and I didn't get any interest at all. And so I graduated, and I went back to school, and I was actually coaching. I got an internship with the Detroit Lions as a scout. So I was a scout. As fate would have it, about a year after I got done playing, there was some reality show that they were doing, that Michael Irvin was doing on Spike TV. I seen it on ESPN, where it took 12 guys off the street whose football career had ended on terms not their own, and they gave them a chance to try out for the Dallas Cowboys, but they had to beat these other 11 contestants. And so I made an audition tape. I sent 30 copies in. I maybe overnighted 10. A 2-day mail 10,
I love
regular
that.
mail 10, because I'm like, I just need somebody to see it, watch it, and give me a chance.
And you got a little FaceTime with Jerry Jones, too, to pack on that, too.
Exactly. And so, like, I sent these tapes in, and I'm like, I didn't have any money to go to the open calls that they had in all these big cities. And so I sent the tapes in. They seen the tape. They were like, hey, we'll fly you out for a 50-person combine, and we're going to pick the 12 best out of these 50 people. So I'm like, cool, I made it. Simultaneously, I'm like working on my career after college, right? I'm trying to work in sports. I'm doing all these things. And I drove to the combine to, just watch it, network, meet people. My older brother was there. He was a former NFL player as well. He was there for media. And, because I was coaching college football, they let me into the combine to watch. And so I was actually in the combine watching. My brother couldn't get in, even though he was a former NFL player, actually. And so I'm in there, and I'm leaving from Indianapolis, which is where the combine is held, and I'm going out to LA to try out for this reality show. And so I'm walking, to the bathroom, and Jerry Jones walks right by me. And so I'm like, damn, that's Jerry Jones. And I wanted to say something then to let him know, yo, I'm going to try out for this reality show, that maybe that would help me get on the show. But he was doing an interview, and I didn't want to interrupt. And so I let him walk by. He gets on the elevator. He leaves, and I'm like, I blew my opportunity. And I'm upset. My brother left. I call him. I let him know, I just seen Jerry Jones, and I blew it. And he's like, all right, well, there's always next time. I'm like, no, there is no next time. I got to figure this out. And so I go to the basement of Lucas Oil Stadium, which is the Colts stadium in Indianapolis. I find a back stairway, and I track up all these stairs up to where the suite level is, where I knew the Dallas Cowboys whole front office was.
Yeah.
And so I prop this door open, and I see the security guard. And I'm like, I'm just going to wait for Jerry Jones to walk out. I'm going to bust in, introduce myself, tell him I'm going to trial for his show. I'm going to get probably hemmed up by security, kicked out, but it's worth it because I'm trying to change my life. And so I sat there and I waited, and 15 minutes go by, 30 minutes go by, an hour goes by. My brother's calling me because I got our rental car. He's like, yo, come pick me up. I'm like, yo, give me 15 more minutes. 2 hours go by. So now we're on hour 3. He's now threatening my life. And I'm like, damn, okay, I got to go because now it's getting dangerous. But I was literally going to sit there for as long as it took. And so I leave, and I'm distraught. I'm really, really upset. And I want to drill down because there's moments in my life, I do everything based off of I don't want to regret anything for myself because I blame myself for a lot of things. That's how I make my decisions, even my tough decisions. And in this moment, I was so disappointed in myself that I felt like I hesitated and I let an opportunity pass me. And so I'm driving, and I'm driving to this hotel to pick my brother up. And I'm distraught, man. And I'm sitting there praying, and I'm like, God, I would have stayed there for 72 hours straight if that's what it needed. Because I felt like, I was in this mode of trying to change my life, and I was willing to do anything. And so I pull up to the hotel. I'm pissed because my brother is the one made me leave. He's walking out. I'm giving him the meanest eye you've ever seen as he's walking towards the car. Right before he gets to the car, a car speeds by, and he has to jump back, right? It almost hits him. And he's look at the car, yo, what the heck? And so lo and behold, Jerry Jones jumps out the driver's seat to get his clothes out the trunk. We look at each other in disbelief. I jump out the car. I run up to him. Hey, Jerry, I'm Andrew Hawkins. I'm trying out for this reality show this week. The winner goes to the Cowboys. I want you to know, I want you to get familiar with my face because it's not going to be the last time you see me. I'm going to win this show, right? I'm talking a mile a minute. He's like, oh, I'll tell Michael Irvin I seen you. So when I got to LA to try out, it's the first thing I said to Michael Irvin. Of course, he watched me a little extra because of that. I got on the show, and the rest is history.
And you did some unbelievable things. I read some of those fake emails you sent, and you put stuff in your shoes to give you some height. You put weights in your pockets to give you some weight. That's just mad passion, man. That's just mad grinder mindset.
I think in life, it's so much is left to chance, right? And there's a lot of things you can't control. But for me, before I made the decision before I, threw in the towel and say, okay, this didn't work out, I was willing to do anything. So if that's what it was going to take for me to get the opportunity and then I was told no, I was good. But I wanted to control as many of the elements as I could to give myself the best opportunity. And I'm glad I did it.
You had a lot of doors close. You had some God winks, I call them, right? God winks, like the Jerry Jones pulling up kind of same time. But you stayed focused, man. You did not, when the world could have said, dude, it is just over, man. Let it go. You kept going. How did you do that, right? Because lots of people in the world find themselves with roadblocks, tough situations, big-time hurdles. You kept going, and it worked.
Yeah, man. I think more than anything, kind of what I talked about. I feel like there's an equation. If you have the talent for something, and once you establish that and you believe that, there's an equation to get anything done. It's our responsibility to find that equation. I just felt like there were more equations to get, reality show. I never thought that would be a way that somebody would see me. That didn't lead to the NFL. I got runner-up. I should have won, but I didn't win that show, but it got me a contract in Canada, and I played in the CFL. And that was just another way for me to say, okay, well, this is the equation I'm putting together. And there were times where I'm like, these doors shutting, it was exhausting. It was like, and in the moments where I felt like, yo, I think it's over, to your point, those God winks would be right on time. And that would keep me in the fight, right? So it was almost like as long as I was pressing, there was a magnetic field that would continue to pull me in the moments when, maybe I didn't feel strong enough to continue to press.
Yeah. People talk about that imposter syndrome, right? That creeps in when you've always been overlooked and then you make it. I know you have so much gratitude and never stopped appreciating where you were and what you've done. But did that ever creep in, when you finally made it?
I probably live with imposter syndrome every single day. That's just who I am. Fortunately, unfortunately, I've been told no so often. It's a double-pronged sword because it's like, by being told no so early on in life, it doesn't affect me. Somebody else telling me I can't do something, I was immune to it because I had heard it my whole life. And it's like, well, clearly you don't know what the hell you're talking about, right? Like for me, that's where it benefited me. The other side of that is you're always trying to prove something wrong, or you're always looking at the reason why you're not going to be successful or why you don't belong in a certain place. So I think even while I was in the NFL, I'm 8-9 years into my professional career, and there was still this feeling of like, eventually they're going to find out I don't belong here. And it was like, yo, dude, you belong here. You're here. You're here for a long time. You've made money. You're playing. You're a starter in the NFL. And so I think it's something that kind of keeps you motivated. But at the same time, to your point, absolutely, that imposter syndrome is a real thing.
What motivated you, Andrew? Was it the journey and the process, or was it the, I'm going to be in an end zone one day catching a football, I'm going to sign a multi-million-dollar contract? Was it the end goal, or was it the desire to just get better and to show up as a better Andrew and know that the outcome would probably be there if you did that?
I think it was the end goal, but I think it was, for me, it was always like, it's tough not having people believe in you.
Sure.
That's a really tough feeling, especially when there's no indication of success, right? And so for me, I was like, this journey is rough. It is tough. It is lonely. It sucks. It is sad. It's exhausting. All those things. And I'm like, if I can just get over this hump and somebody else can see my story and it could help them through theirs, that's going to be the ultimate triumph for me. And once I took that on, it was a lot better. And I think along the way, people did start believing. And there were people that believed in me, even though there wasn't a lot. And it just shifted. It was like, I want to prove those people right. And I want the people in my shoes who are rooting for me because they see a little bit of their story in themselves, or my story in themselves, to feel like, you know what, if Hawk did it, I can do it. And that's what kind of kept me going through the process.
Hi there, it's Molly. I've got some exciting news to share. I'm thrilled to announce I've launched my first ever on-demand course, Up Your Game. Unlock the drive to fuel next level success. Have the past few years left you burned out and stretched thin? Like, despite your success, you know you're capable of more. Maybe you've lost your purpose and that inner fire to pursue your dreams. If so, you are not alone. So many of us have been there. As a top sports agent for 15 years, representing and working with the best of the best, I've seen and helped countless people unlock their drive to accomplish great things and finally live out their dreams. That's why I've crafted a brand new on-demand course to help you unlock your potential to fuel next level success. In my new course, Up Your Game, I share the critical 8 keys that you absolutely must use to get unstuck and to finally realize your fullest potential. This course, it's not inspirational fluff. It gives you action guides so that you can apply it to your life and take action right now. So are you ready to up your game? Sign up for my new course today at mollyfletcher.com/course. That's mollyfletcher.com/course. I can't wait for this course to change your life in incredible ways. Check it out. You got your master's at Columbia, while you were playing in the NFL. And you were literally commuting across the country, right? You were training, you were going to school, you were doing an internship, and you got a 4.0. I mean, what was that time in your life like, right? It was airplanes, I know, and classes and internships and not a lot of sleep. But that's unbelievable.
It was more grind. There's like so many points in I feel like in my journey, like even again, getting to a Division I college was a very tough process, right? But it showed me that, hey, if you do put the work in, this is what happens. And so I followed that same blueprint trying to get to the NFL, which was the ultimate goal of my life. I had one goal up until that point, and that was to make it to the NFL, period, right? And so when I got there, my goal was to play one game. I didn't plan on playing a whole career. I was like, if I could make one game, everybody else was wrong. I was right. And boom, I'm on with the rest of my life. And so I had to like do a little bit of a reset, but what it showed me, and it was like, man, everybody said this was impossible. Like at every turn, up until like a week before I got to the NFL, people were still telling me it was impossible. And so once I did it, I'm like, what else can I do that people think is impossible? Like how much bigger can I use this to think through? And so at that moment, I kind of just reset the goals for when I was done, because I'm like, in my mind, I was on house money. And so I'm like, you know what? I want to go get a master's, but why wait? And if I go, I want to go to a really great school. And if I go to a great school, I want to get the best possible grades so that, someone else could see it and say, if he could do that, I might not do that, but I might fall somewhere in there. And so if the only thing that is stopping me from doing something is hard work, I run towards it. I always ask myself, is it impossible or is it very hard? If it's impossible, I recalibrate. But if it's just very hard, we got work to do. And that's just a philosophy I've had my whole life.
Where do you think that came from? I mean, your work effort, I would have to say, I'm not sure I've seen anything like it. Where do you think that came from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a mix. I think it's a mix of being told no, right? And, two people that I say have always believed in me, my mom and my stepfather, like they thought I could be the president, and even though they're my parents, and I'm like, okay, you say that to everybody, but you're the only two people on earth that say this, so you can't be right. But I think just from them, I actually believed it. And it's just a formula. I like anything early on when I wanted something, I would just put in time. And I got to see that. And I got to see like, the fruits of that labor. And I think it's from my own psyche too. I feel like, to your point, those God winks or a lot of this is luck. I played with players that I felt like were just as good or better than me that never made it. Sometimes things just don't swing their way. And so for me, anything that I want, I'm like, well, why do I deserve this over somebody else? Why is it me? If fate is going to be the reason why me and another person are successful or are not successful, why do I deserve it over them? And so my mindset is like, well, I want to work for it longer. So I'm going to wake up earlier and I'm going to stay up later.
Sure.
And I'm going to put more work in. And then in my mind, I deserve the things that I want. Because if you're not willing to do more, why should it go to me? Well, because I work for it more than the next person. And so I just kind of adopted that very early.
So many of these things you've done and it will continue to obviously do are things outside of a comfort zone. They're outside of your maybe comfort zone, right? Some of these creative things you had to do, the things that you've done, and often people don't do those things because of self-doubt, right? Of the issue of no. I'm like you, man. I think no is just feedback. Thanks for the feedback. I'm gonna keep going. What was your thought process, if you will, or approach when you'd step into these challenging moments, these moments where no felt like the common answer, even though you wanted it so bad? What'd you tell yourself?
That this movie is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what I would tell my mind in these moments. Like when things are as bad as they could be, I'm like, man, this is going to be a great scene in the movie. And I honestly would, and it's a little mind trick I would use, but it will work. To your point, I get excited about people telling me I can't do something. I like to hear no, because that means that you're doing something that's going to be lasting. I don't like to follow on what other people have done. I don't know. It feels icky to me. I want to do my own thing. I want to do something. I want to fledge, a new perspective, a new ground, a new creative, a new way of doing things. And I want people to follow me. I want to be a leader. So when I hear those moments of no, that just means it's, oh, okay, you haven't seen it before. that's an opportunity zone for me.
As you look back, Andrew, like as you look back on that time, and I'm thinking about people that are working 2 or 3 jobs or working parents that are grinding it, right? What do you tell the grinders, right? The dream chasers out in the world, and there's a lot of them, right? What do you tell them? Because they hit speed bumps every day.
Yeah. Stay in it. It's a long game, and it's so satisfying. You get bogged down and you get these, kind of looking in your rear view to see what other people are doing, and you see other people maybe ahead of you or doing these things. It's easy to compare yourself. But I think the beauty of anything we do is that we're all one of one. And so I would tell those people, stay on your journey. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. It's the reason why people who win a lottery typically go broke. That's a real statistic. The things that you work for, the things that you wait for, the things that you stay on a path for, you appreciate them more. It is a sweeter feeling at the end, but it is a long game. And you got to be comfortable with playing the long game. And I look at my life in these kind of series of long games where typically if any given moment you punched into my life to see what was going on, you didn't really know what the goal was. And that was by design, right? I made sure, like when I was going to the NFL, I wasn't publicizing what I was doing. I made it look a certain way, and I was doing it when I was in the NFL. I was working on other things that you couldn't see at the moment that I was building towards. And even now, like you're seeing me do certain things, there is a bigger play always. And I am just a proponent of the long game. And so anybody who's a grinder, that perspective is catered for you.
Well, and I think what's really cool is the gratitude that you showed along the way, right? It's easy to get to where you chased and got to and stand in the end zone and sign a $13.6 million deal and go, I'm the man. But you never stopped appreciating the moments. How do you think you did that, right? Like you have this grinder, you're always chasing, getting after it, but yet it feels like you also took time to be fully present in these moments with gratitude.
I know the thin line. I was living on a couch after college as an adult, no money, selling plasma, ironing my clothes, selling in the Plato's closet for extra money, working as a caddy, being talked bad to on this prestigious golf course. Like those were really low moments for me. There's a thin line between that and the, $13 million contract that had I not pressed, who knows where life would have took me, right? And so I think that's how grounded, yes, but at the same time, like I was fortunate, and I know that those thin lines, and I think that everybody who's in a tough situation has that same thin line that if they press and look and go about it a certain way, they have the opportunity to get on the other side. And that's not lost on me. I'm very appreciative because I do feel like I've accomplished a lot of my life goals already, and I have a lot more to go, but it's a lot of people don't get that opportunity.
I want to dig into your post-playing career, which is incredible as well. You found success in, so many lanes post-football, right? Media, business. So when we think about media, let's start there, right? You see the Tom Brady's and the Romos, right? Land these huge TV deals out of the gates, right? And in Brady's case, before he's even hung up his spikes, right? But that's not the norm. But I'm a huge proponent of that. John Smoltz was a client of ours forever. I'd put John in the booth anytime he wasn't in an all-star game to get some reps to start building his reel, right? So I believe in that, right? The minute you start playing in the NFL, you better start thinking about what you're going to do when it's over because it's going to end, right? But a lot of guys don't recognize that. They think, man, making $1 million a month's pretty normal. I'm going to do that forever. It's like, no, dude, that is not normal. How did you break into this space?
A lot of the benefit that I got, just especially post-playing career, is, as I said, my older brother played in the National Football League, hometown hero. He set the pace for a lot of the things that I do and I've been able to do because he lived my life 10 years ahead of me. And so I would love to say I'm the smartest guy and I knew to go to school and I knew to do these things and I knew what to do with my money and I knew I got to see somebody make choices, make mistakes, essentially just pass me down the answers to the test. And so he got into media and I seen the things that worked for him, that didn't work for him, that I thought could work for me and the way I wanted to approach it. The same way I did with, my after business life and the answers to the tests that I wanted to get while I was in the league. And I followed it. And so for me in media, it was always, I don't want to be former player X. I don't want to be, here's former wide receiver. Like, yes, I'm proud of that. But if that's a role that you're filling, just because I'm a former player, I know that's a role that somebody else is going to retire and replace me at eventually. But if you're coming for Hawk, if you like funny, or if you like to have a good time, or you like the personality of someone who can fuse these things, then I'm the best version of me. If you're looking for me, someone like me, I'm number one, and then somebody else is always going to play second fiddle, and that's a position that I would rather be in, something that's irreplaceable.
Given your unique gifts, right? Being you all the way through.
Yeah.
I love it. You know, you have found sort of a voice, right, across a spectrum of traditional but also evolving media platforms. And you've embraced that in a way that I haven't seen a lot of other guys, athletes, do. How have you done that? Because it's unique. Not everybody's doing that.
I feel like I'm in tune. I
Yeah.
try to stick to the things that interest me. I was a kid. Instant Messenger was big when I was growing up, and so I think the social media stuff is just, it stuck for me. I'm a pretty witty guy. I was a class clown as a kid, and so I can use fun. I can use these kind of mediums and platforms just to have my voice. And to your point, over time, you realize that the competitive advantage or the value proposition you have is that you're yourself and you're your voice and you're authentic in that way. And so that's what I try to be. And I think it shines through in the content. And I think it also, just as people hear me, they feel like they understand me. I feel relatable because I am relatable. I feel like, honestly, I relate more to the everyday person than I do NFL players, to be honest. And I think, that juxtaposition is something that has carried me in my post-playing career.
Yeah, I know you spent time working with Spring Hill, right? The media company started by LeBron and by Maverick Carter. How have you been able to create these kind of opportunities, right? And I know you still have the same agent, man, by the way, that you sent that bogus email to and he bid on, and now he's still your guy, which, by the way, I think is so cool. That's awesome. But how have you unlocked some of these various opportunities?
Showing up. I think that's the biggest thing, is like I'm a show up guy. And then also I wanna leave everything in a better place than when I got there. If there's not an opportunity for that, I won't do it. But I'm also showing up. Like, I'm not the guy, like, my agent will tell you. The same way I'm the guy reaching out to him, I'm reaching out. When we're negotiating contracts, it's me and him in the trenches. It's not a, hey, let me know what you think. It's, I send my first pass and then you send yours, right? Which I think helps me in business. And then beyond that, it's, as I played or as I've gone through, I tell people when I admire them. I tell them when I look up to them. I tell them when I'm impressed or I think they've done something awesome. And people appreciate that. And I think that's a form of networking. And over time, I'm like, hey, you want to meet for coffee? Yeah, I got some time. What are you doing tomorrow?
Well, I'm available, Hawk, for coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know you're feeling that way right now, man. I'm just kidding.
I'm feeling it. The truth is.
So what have you learned from LeBron, right? I mean, about entrepreneurship, about, content creation, about investments, about philanthropy. What have you learned?
A lot. I think LeBron is, we know he's a monumental athlete on the court. I think what he's done off the court is changing, sports and athletes as we know it. This whole idea of like, hey, how are you as a person? It's become the norm. Like, I could do these things. I can go to Columbia, but, it's little on me. Some people might see it and be impressed and do it. Cool. When LeBron does it, when LeBron is, running businesses or, making certain stances for what he thinks about society and caring in that way, it changes the whole demographic. And so now it's this like world we're in where athletes are like, well, what else are you doing? What are your investments? What are you doing as a member of society? Because now we judge you based off of that because that's what LeBron has done. So I think that's what he's done. And the other part is Maverick Carter, who I've worked directly with, and he was how I got in the door with them, and he runs all the businesses, and he is like, I've never been around people who understand leverage more than they do, but also just it's the idea of 1 + 1 = 3, how they do deals, how they do business. And he really pulled back the curtain for me, because you're taught that, oh, you got to be a shark. You got to be able to win every deal. And that's not the way to foster more deals. That's not the way to really build a reputation of people that you want to do business with. And so learning that, seeing that firsthand and the way they do it at such a big level has meant everything to me in my business career.
No, I think, when you boil negotiation down, it's just a conversation, and conversations happen better when you have good relationships.
There it is.
I love that approach. How has that shaped your professional journey, right? Like I can't only imagine how it's influenced the decisions you make, how you approach things. A ton, I bet.
Yeah, it shaped it tremendously. Columbia was my master's, but working with Maverick and LeBron was my PhD, right? Because it's showing how it's applied in real time and actualized and understanding, to your point about people, knowing what everybody wants, right? You come into a deal or a business term or a potential partnership, and it's like, well, what do you want out of this? What would be beneficial to you? Here's what would be beneficial to me. And here's the middle ground where we both win in that. And I've been really good about finding that middle ground in deals, businesses, investments, you name it. And I think that's what I learned directly from the guys over at Spring Hill and being having a front row seat to that.
You know, I can imagine there is so much you take from the field, right? Or the workout room or all the grind, right? From an athlete perspective that you now leverage in your business ventures. What would you say are some of the biggest things that you take from the field to the boardroom?
There's so many. Obviously, competitive nature. You got to go in wanting to win. That's number one. You got to be prepared. You got to know that you're never going to feel ready. You're just going to run out of time. You know, you got to have a short-term memory for the good things and the bad things. You can't be sitting there thinking about them because the next play is the most important. You got to understand that you need people. And that's whether you're a one-person company or a 400-person company, you need people. You need people. And so it's important to develop those skills. You need teammates. Yes, celebrate the wins. All of these things, we get so bogged down with the work. And like you said, I'm a grinder. It's important to celebrate the wins. It's important to, pat yourself on the back and say, look what I've done in those moments. Give yourself a 24-hour rule, but definitely celebrate the wins and it's on to the next. So little things like that, I think, are everything. And we talk about them in my company every day.
I think you're more of a 3-minute guy than a 24-hour guy because there's no way you could take 24 hours with all the things you got.
That's a good point.
Hi again, it's Molly. I hope you're enjoying the show. If you're a go-getter who wants to conquer overwhelm and sharpen your focus, I want to let you know about my new free webinar training, Purposeful Productivity. This free webinar gives you a framework to unlock more energy for what matters most and to finally beat burnout. Head over to mollyfletcher.com/webinar to access this free training and my new life-changing energy management framework. That's mollyfletcher.com/webinar. So Status Pro, it's your latest venture, right? And it happens, it's backed by LeBron, it's backed by Osaka, it's backed by Drake. What's Status Pro all about?
So Status Pro is a sports technology company that majors in XR technology, which is augmented reality and virtual reality. We use our technology to help NFL teams prepare for games. We simulate plays that can do in a headset. So it essentially takes physical reps off their body, but continues to give them the mental reps. We also extract that experience for gaming. And, we're coming out this fall with the first ever NFL VR game where you're able to play in an NFL game as an NFL quarterback, which is really, really cool. And yeah, we've been head down on this for a number of years, working in stealth mode, as I alluded to earlier. And we're excited for, people to experience what it's like to actually be on the field.
Where do you see this in the next couple of years? I mean, this sounds incredible.
Yeah, my goal is that it's going to change sports fandom. For people who love sports, that is always the missing thing. And my thing, I always tell people, like, with all the things that I've been through to get into the NFL, when I got there, the biggest thing I remember is running out of the tunnel and thinking to myself, wow, this is as cool as it looks. This is as cool as I thought it would be. And if we could democratize that feeling for fans of any sport, we've done our job. And that's what our goal is. We want everyone to feel that. We want you to feel what it's like to call the plays, to make the throws, to hit the home runs. And, any sport where there's an athlete, we want to give you that perspective because that's the level that hasn't been unlocked yet for fans. That's what we're out to do.
Is there a point when you would say, I did it. I'm there. I'm going to put my toes in the sand. I'm done. Or is it the chase and the journey and the grind that fills you up the most? And that day may never come, which I get too.
Yeah, that's a great one. I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if that point is going to come. I feel like it will. Even with my company now, like, it's not so much about, businesses, their statistics are revenue, valuation of a company. I think for me and my partner, Troy Jones, who's also a former athlete, we want to change the game. We wanted to create a place where every perspective is in the room. People from every walk of life are in the room. And we can create something that nobody's created. So I think my goal there, like when I'll put my feet in the sand, is when I can look back and say, hey, I changed the game. And I don't know when that'll come.
So you're a dad of 3 beautiful children, right? I mean, you have 3 beautiful kids. What are some of the most important lessons that you've been trying to instill in them as a parent?
Number one is that they're enough, you know? Like I said, I mean, that's the direct correlation to my upbringing, which is, you know, there was a lot of times I didn't feel adequate. I struggle with that now, not feeling adequate. And for them, I want to free them of those shackles, right? Like, you are more than enough. You are smart. You are beautiful. You are special. You are courageous. You are enough. And whatever it is that you want to be, you can be, but don't feel pressure to have to go do it, you know? And that's number one. And then the other thing, if they were in here right now, I would say, when it's hard, it's what? And they would all say, good. That's them leaning into things that are hard, to things that challenge them, to things that are going to be a little hard to attain. And that's probably the number one lesson that I teach them, because if you have that mentality, you're going to be able to do literally anything you want in life. And if you're not scared of something being too hard, it unlocks a plethora of opportunities.
We can do hard. Yeah, we have 3 daughters. I tell them that too. We love hard. Hard is good.
There it is.
I'm going to wrap with rapid fire. You've been awesome with your time. I could unwrap all kinds of things with you. This is awesome. What is your most memorable experience as an NFL player? Good or bad?
Wearing a T-shirt to protest the killings of Tamir Rice and John Crawford. That was right in the height of my career. You know, I had death threats. It was a very tough time, and I was scared as hell. But I felt like it was what I needed to do. And That was the moment I was most proud of myself, because my natural reaction was not to do it, and I did it anyway. And by all intents and purposes, that was my most courageous moment. And I'm very proud of that. In my NFL career, that's the moment I always go back to.
What's your favorite NFL stadium that you played in?
Favorite NFL stadium is probably Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. I'm from not too far from there.
Yeah, I know,
It is an intense atmosphere. I was always the away team. And they were nasty, and I loved it. I loved every minute of being on the other side. I loved the idea of people I grew up with being in the stands, booing me, because I was like, I cannot believe I'm here. Yeah, I loved it, man. I loved it. I loved playing.
They needed to be having your back, man.
You would think, but Steelers fans are nuts, man.
So was there a coach or a player that you wish you had the opportunity to play with or for?
My brother. We were trying to line it up to where we played, you know, in the NFL at the same time. That would have been an incredible experience. Yes, that was. He would absolutely be the answer.
What's a ritual that you've leaned into in your life that's made your life better?
Pray. I pray to start my day every day, and I think that helps keep me grounded and not overwhelmed by all the things that, you know, I have going on.
What's one thing you wish you knew earlier? What's the young Andrew wish you knew?
I wish the young Andrew knew he was enough. I wish I wouldn't have spent so much time trying to prove it to other people and myself. And if I knew then what I know now, I'd probably be 10x the impact that I already have even today.
But at some level, isn't that what drove you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it definitely drove me. But it's, you know, for me, it's like, if I'd known that then, I would have been able to maximize it. I wouldn't have spent so much time worried about what others thought of me, you know? And even though I did a good job of it, there were moments where I was trying to impress people then, or like spending so much time trying to position myself then to people that now they call me for opportunities and jobs. And, you know, and had I known that then, I would have been able to spend my time a lot wiser.
It's got to be a little rewarding, right? The guys that looked away however many years ago, and now they're begging you for a signature or an investment. That's got to feel pretty interesting, pretty good.
It does feel good. I'm not going to lie.
I bet it does, man. And I know that phone's blowing up. So who's a person who would play you in a movie? Because we have to get that done. Who would do it?
It's another tough one.
I'm thinking you're the kind of guy that would go, I'll do it. I'll play me.
Yeah, I could play. I would love to play me in a movie. How about that?
Yeah.
Nobody could do it. I'll do it myself. Absolutely.
I'm sure, because you ain't afraid of hard work, man. So the show's called Game Changers. So one last question. What game changer or who inspires you and why?
The game changer that inspires me, there's two. Paul Robeson. He essentially lived a lot of my life 100 years before me and was able to make impact in sports as an NFL player, graduated from Columbia while he was playing, social justice, theater, entertainment. He has statues and monuments all over the world. Valedictorian at Rutgers. I mean, so many accolades, and he just continued to reinvent himself. So that's one. The other one is Junior Bridgeman, who is a former NBA player, who is also, I think he made maybe $12 million in his career as an NBA player and is now worth like $700 million because of the decisions he made and the business that he was able to cultivate post-career. Those are people that I kind of follow their blueprint, put my own spin on it, and hope to one day when you're interviewing somebody, 15, 20 years from now, that they'll name me as one of their game changers.
So everybody calls you Hawk, right? Can I call you Hawk?
Absolutely.
All right, Hawk. This was fun, man. Thank you. With all the things you have coming at you for taking time for me. I appreciate this.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Unbelievable. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. This guy is incredible. Here's a few of my favorite takeaways from my conversation with Hawk. Number one, I'm stealing this, Hawk, by the way. I love it. Run towards hard. Run towards hard. Is it impossible or is it just very hard? This is such a cool question that Hawk asks himself. It's about not being afraid to put in the work. Run towards hard. Number two, I love this. No is just feedback. By the way, Hawk, I've been saying this one too, man. I love it. Andrew made a career of proving the doubters wrong and turning no into yes. Look, we all get no in life, no doubt about it. I get it. But most of the time, no, it isn't the end. It's the start. No is just feedback. Number three, show your appreciation. This one is so simple, but it's often overlooked. When you admire someone, when you respect them, tell them that you appreciate them. Not appreciate them, big difference. Appreciate you. That creates connection. And down the road, a healthy relationship. Thanks, as always, for listening to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. There you can listen to previous episodes and leave us a review, which helps other people find out about the show. This episode was edited and sound designed by the team at Sound On Studios. You can find out more about their work at soundonsoundoff.com. Check it out. For more about me, visit mollyfletcher.com. Until next time, stay curious and be bold.